Good evening. Thank you for tuning to News Mongolia on MNB World. I am Jugdur Gambold. And for our top stories for today, Mongolia needs to address its energy sector challenges. Mongolia spent $250 million on imported electricity in 2022. Mongolia and the Czech Republic signed a memorandum of understanding on mining sector cooperation. For other news, stay tuned. Mongolia's energy sector presents various challenges for the industrial sector. One of the key challenges is the dependence on coal for energy production, which has adverse environmental impacts and contributes to air pollution. The industrial sector faces difficulties in implementing sustainable practices due to limited access to clean and reliable energy sources.
Energy shortages and unreliable power supply pose significant obstacles to industrial operations. Frequent disruptions in energy availability impact productivity, increase production costs, and hinder the growth of industries. Analysts say reliable and resilient energy infrastructure is needed to support the industry sector. Over the past century, Mongolia's energy sector has played a significant role in the country's development. However, there have also been major disruptions and failures over the last 50 years.
I worked in the energy sector for 47 years. I faced three major energy issues during my career. From 1970 to 1983, there was no thermal power plant 4, only thermal power plant 3 was operating. In 1978, thermal power plant 3 experienced a major blast that caused significant damage and posed serious challenges to the energy sector. It was very difficult in Lombat City during the cold winter. In 1984, thermal power plant 4 was put into operation. The second challenge was the 1990s transition period. There were electricity shortages and restrictions for more than 200 days a year. I believe the third energy sector crisis is happening right now.
Electricity consumption in Mongolia increases by 6 to 7% annually by 100 megawatts. The increasing demand for electricity is covered by imported energy. The energy sector also faces annual losses. The sector experienced 92 billion Mongolian tugrix loss in 2021 and 189 billion Mongolian tugrix in losses in 2022.
Currently, the cost of producing 1 kilowatt of electricity in Mongolia is 224 MNT. Households pay 142 MNT per kilowatt, businesses pay 211 to 213 MNT, and industrial consumers pay 280 to 290 MNT. Operational losses lead to increasing debt and the inability to invest in technical upgrades, which has a negative impact on providing reliable energy to consumers.
Addressing these challenges requires a strategic approach that promotes the diversification of energy sources and encourages the adoption of cleaner technologies. Investments in renewable energy projects such as solar and wind can help reduce the reliance on coal and mitigate environmental concerns. By improving energy efficiency, industries can contribute to greater sustainability and competitiveness. Analysts say collaboration between the energy and industrial sectors and consumers is crucial to overcome these challenges. Close cooperation, policy reforms, and technological advancements can pave the way for a more sustainable and robust industrial sector in Mongolia, ensuring a harmonious relationship between energy production and industrial development.
In 2022, Mongolia consumed around 10 billion kilowatts of electricity, with 79% produced domestically. Mongolia imported $195 million in energy from China and $59 million in electricity from Russia.
To ensure the smooth operation of a new power plant, it is crucial to appropriately revise the electricity tariff in accordance with the law. If the tariff is set lower than the actual cost, it can have negative long-term consequences for the energy sector and may result in financial losses for investors. Therefore, it is imperative that the newly adopted tariff meets the necessary requirements to sustain the continuous operations of the power plant. By setting an appropriate tariff, the energy sector can secure the necessary revenue to cover operational expenses.
өөрчлөлт оруулаагүй. Дорн бүс дээр
The Dornet region has an energy deficiency, and it has one old power plant with the capacity to produce 36 megawatts, so a new turbine and furnace with a 50 megawatt capacity are being added. The upgrade will be completed this year. The two regions need several energy sources. The first one will be based on the Burljut mining site. A 300 megawatt power plant is being built with foreign investment, and construction started last year and will be completed by December 2024.
300 мегаваттын станцыг
Reducing dependence on energy imports is crucial for enhancing energy security and self-sufficiency. By decreasing its reliance on external energy sources, Mongolia can mitigate vulnerabilities and potential disruptions in the energy supply chain.
Please take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by the Central Bank of Mongolia. Now please have a current affairs of Mongolia.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Batsik and Minister of Industry and Trade of the Czech Republic, Josef Sikala, have recently signed a memorandum of understanding on cooperation in the mining sector. The signing took place on May 12th, marking a significant step toward collaboration between the Ministry of Mining and Heavy Industry of Mongolia and the Ministry of Industry and Trade of the Czech Republic. The MOU establishes a framework for joint programs and projects, research cooperation, private sector collaboration, mining rehabilitation efforts, and exchanging knowledge and expertise regarding eco-friendly waste management. The ministers also expressed their commitment to enhancing cooperation in geology and mining by intensifying collaboration, facilitating training and expert exchanges, and conducting joint research. They aim to leverage the advanced techniques and technologies available in the Czech Republic to achieve mutually beneficial outcomes. The MOU is a significant milestone in fostering mining sector cooperation and facilitating knowledge exchange between Mongolia and the Czech Republic.
Now here comes foreign news partnered with international news agencies. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who has ruled his country with an increasingly firm grip for 20 years, was locked in a tight election race Sunday, with a make-or-break runoff against his chief challenger possible as the final votes were counted. The results, whether they come within days or after a second round of voting takes place in 2 weeks, will determine if a NATO ally that straddles Europe and Asia but borders Syria and Iran remains under Erdogan's control or resumes the more democratic path promised by his main rival opposition leader Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu.
Speaking to supporters in Ankara, Erdogan said he could still win but would respect the nation's decision if the race went to a runoff vote in 2 weeks. This year's election largely centered on domestic issues such as the economy, civil rights, and a February earthquake that killed more than 50,000 people. But Western nations and foreign investors also awaited the outcome because of Erdogan's sometimes erratic leadership of the economy and efforts to put Turkey at the center of international negotiations. With the unofficial count nearly completed, voter support for the incumbent had dipped below the majority required for him to win re-election outright. Erdogan had 49.6% of the vote, while Kılıçdaroğlu, the candidate of a six-party alliance, had 44.7%, according to the state-run news agency Anadolu. Turkey's election authority, the Supreme Electoral Board, said it was providing numbers to competing political parties instantly and would make the results public once the count was completed and finalized. The majority of ballots from the 3.4 million eligible overseas voters still needed to be tallied according to the board, and the May 28th runoff election was not assured. Voters also elected lawmakers to fill Turkey's 600-seat parliament, which lost much of its legislative power after a referendum to change the country's system of governance to an executive presidency narrowly passed in 2017. With 92% of ballot boxes counted, Anadolu news agency said Erdogan's ruling party alliance was hovering below 50%, while Kılıçdaroğlu Nations Alliance had around 35% and a pro-Kurdish party above 10%. Voter turnout in Turkey is traditionally strong despite the government suppressing freedom of expression and assembly over the years, and especially since 2016 coup attempt. Erdogan blamed the failed coup on followers of a former ally cleric Fethullah Gülen and initiated a large-scale crackdown on civil servants with alleged links to Gülen and on pro-Kurdish politicians. Internationally, the elections were seen as a test of united opposition's ability to dislodge a leader who has concentrated nearly all state powers in his hands and worked to wield more influence on the world stage. Erdogan, along with the United Nations, helped mediate a deal with Ukraine and Russia that allowed Ukrainian grain to reach the rest of the world from Black Sea ports, despite Russia's war in Ukraine. The agreement, which is implemented by a center based in Istanbul, is set to expire in days, and Turkey hosted talks last week to keep it alive. But Erdogan also has held up Sweden's quest to join NATO while demanding concessions, contending that nation was too lenient on followers of the US-based cleric and members of pro-Kurdish groups that Turkey considers national security threats.
Now please have weather forecasts for the world's major cities. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying tuned. We'll see you next time with more news and updates. Have a nice day.